Is it a half hour or hour?
The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And I may be a bit overdressed, but I just came from a meeting that I had to wear. You have to, suits were mandatory, unfortunately. Welcome to the show, and we have a plethora of guests today. We'll introduce momentarily, but before we begin, I just have to comment about my total irritation in the recent disclosure that the city is not going to pay pothole claims because they found some loophole in the law. It's pretty sad after they continually barrage the taxpayers with fee and tax increases, and they find every conceivable way to take money out of one of the poorest communities in the Commonwealth. And then they expect businesses to survive and people to actually make this city a better place to live in and not move out. So I think it's appalling. I think maybe you know, too many lawyers, too many loopholes. Maybe we should start thinking about lawyers. I'll have a quote later on the show, but that's my beginning complaint of the day. And now I'll turn it over to CJ for his little commentary, and then we'll get to our guests.
Well, Chip, I think it's very interesting because if you've been following the news this week, it seems like department heads is now starting to get ready to jump ship. We know that Kathy Ann Viveris is top running for town administrator or town manager over in Swansea. And now one of the building inspectors, Mr. McGrady, whatever his name is, he's going to take the job over as the building inspector of Swansea. It seems like Swansea's going to get all of Fall River's former administrators and department heads. It's going to be interesting to see what happens because the rumor mill is that this is the beginning of the city flush, for the lack of a better expression. And you know, you really have to question what's going on. But what I think is very interesting is that Ken Pacheco and the mayor came out with a PSA telling the people of Fall River to get your space holders out of the streets. Effective Monday, they're going to be driving the city and they're going to be confiscating and disposing of your space savers. So your chairs, tables, milk crates that you've used to save your space, and to quote Sam Sutter, that I've given you leeway on, you know, is going to stop. So I have to really question what we're going to do there. In respects to the people of Fall River. I think with the snow coming today, the first day of spring, we're getting a potential of 4 inches of snow. I'm wondering if they're going to put their space savers back out in the street.
Oh, they will, because they're. But I want to warn Swansea, because one of our investigators has told us exactly what the people who are trying to go to Swansea know. Can we cue that up for that report from our investigator?
Oh, our investigative report? Sure, I'll see if we can.
How about these people?
I honestly don't know what's going to go on, but I can tell you one thing: the investigative reporter knows it clearly.
I know nothing.
So be prepared, Swansea. That's what you're getting. And now, without further ado, I'm going to introduce our guests for today. As he said, we have a plethora of guests. We have the now famous from last week, Carlos Cesar.
Thank you, and I'm very honored to be back. And today I'm gonna limit my comments, and because I want to hear from our next guests. And I know I can come back anytime you guys want, and we will have plenty time to talk about. But I, just like you, we want to hear from Jason.
That's right. Well, it's a pleasure to have you back again. You are a neighborhood leader and a community leader and a man who's involved in the community and gives a lot to our community. You are the kind of people that we need more of in Fall River. You don't take from the community like a lot of these people do. You give. And
Chip, Carlos actually stormed in and demanded to be on TV. He doesn't get enough time with his own show, Neighborhood News, so he wants to be sure that the people of Fall River know that he's here and he's going to be here all the time. And Neighborhood News is moving forward very strongly on Tuesday nights here on Channel 95.
Thank you.
And next, I want to introduce our other guest, Jason Caminiti. He's a councilor. I believe you're a candidate for city council?
I am a candidate for city council, and I'll be running this year. Hopefully, I'll be getting in, and we can make some changes to the city that are desperately needed, as I'm sure this show and viewers of this show know all too well. But I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for having me. I haven't been on TV much lately, so I really appreciate the chance to be back on.
Well, we want to have people like you on, Jason, because the fact is, you know, the city has not gotten itself out of this rut in a very long time, and I think that I think we've got people interested now, and I believe that, you know, we're going to need some new blood in the council with a different vision of how we accomplish our goal. And, you know, we're not going to tax and spend our way out of the hole here. We've got to do some other things. So we're going to look, you know, we're going to ask you some questions and make some comments, and you know, we'll begin. Actually, Cesar, we'll defer. We'll let Jason basically. Can we let him lead?
Debate?
I'm giving no. I'm asking your permission because you're the man, Cesar. You're sitting in the middle. But
I'm the independent here, you know.
Yeah,
so
yeah, well,
I have my follow right guy and left guy and right guy.
I'm on a. Well, you know. I'm going to pose a question to you. And, you know, you can, you know, obviously make any kind of statement you like about your candidacy, why you want to run. That's what we want to hear. What you think you can do for the city. But I'd also like you to kind of comment about this you know, this seemingly, you know, a set of blinders that the city council has on, you know, who lives in Fall River. We have the second lowest household income in the state, not even half, or just about half the state average, yet they continue. The first place they look is to impose more of a financial burden, and then they say we want to keep businesses, but people have no money to keep their businesses afloat, and they continually want to increase this tax burden. They're talking about fee increases across the board. We want to know that, you know, it's great to see somebody that wants to get into the fray, and we want to know why you feel that you can bring a kind of a different perspective, and what do you feel about this constant inundation of escalation of fees and things to the people?
Well, you say you want to see new blood, and a lot of people say they want to see new blood on the council. That's technically true, but so does a shark in an ocean. Everybody wants to see new blood. That doesn't mean anything. What I want to see is people like myself who are fiscally conservative, and that's the reason I'm running, because I'm at a point in my life where I've got the ability to run. I work full time, but I've got the ability to get out. I live in the city. I work from home, and I feel I can contribute back to the city more by running and being a city councilor. And if you get people like myself who are fiscally conservative, we're going to look at the budget and say we've got to get this under control. We've got to start listening to what the mayor's transition team even had to say. We've got to start looking at this as a business and really make this work like a business. That's the type of people I think you need on the council instead of what we've got now, which is, and not all of them are bad. I love some of the guys and girls women on the council. I'd love to work with some of them, but you've got some of the people that are kind of on there and they're just kind of stale. They've been there for years and they're just kind of going along with it. Some of them just go and do whatever the mayor wants at the time, and that's a problem. What we need to actually look at what the city needs, what we need, what we want, and what we can actually afford, because those are three different things. You can't necessarily afford what we're giving as services, and some of the services we need we're not getting. So that's why I'm running, because I want to start looking at this with a fine-tooth comb from a position of power to start to get this into the right start to get the budget into a actual budget that means something. The budget doesn't mean anything. It's really kind of a joke right now. It's a piece of paper that they put, as CJ said, they reconcile numbers, which is true. That's really what they're doing. And that being said, to answer your question, the first place a lot of people go is more fees. And I don't see how you're going to go to more fees in a city like this, because fees, adding fees and taxes on top of an already cash-strapped people is not the solution. The solution, look, if you have children, I don't have children, but let's say I have a child and I send them to school with their allowance, okay? And on the way to school, they go and they buy some candy and they buy whatever, comic book or whatever kids are into these days, apps on their phone, I don't know. They go in and then they get to school and they don't have any lunch money. So they do this for about a week or two, and then they come back to me and they say, I haven't been eating lunch for a week. Well, why haven't I been eating lunch for a week? Well, I need more money because I haven't been eating lunch for a week. Well, you haven't been eating lunch for a week. What have you been doing? Well, I've been buying candy, I've been buying comic books, and then by the time I get to school, I don't have any money. Well, your problem is not that you don't have enough money. Your problem is you're spending it wrong. And that's what we need to do in our city. We need to start spending our money properly, and we need to start actually having a council that's going to say no, in some cases, to the mayor, and stand up to it. And even if it's 8-1, even if you're the only guy there saying no, sometimes you just got to say no. You got to stand up on your principles.
That's very good, because we have been, CJ and I have been talking about priorities in spending, in streamlining of government. You say, and I hear it a lot of people say, we've got to run this like a business, and I agree to a degree. It's got to be run like a business, but really a nonprofit business. It's got to be, a city's job is to deliver services to its community. It's basically our city, and we're paying our money for essential services, police, fire protection, things like this. These are where our tax dollars should be going. In my house, as you said, I can't go out and buy a Ferrari and then not pay my electric light bill and my heat bill for the next 10 years. And, this is the thing. They seem to lose sight of this. And as anybody would, in a perfect world, we'd have enough money to do everything. We shouldn't have spent $800,000 on a park. And we shouldn't have 4 people working in the Treasurer's Department in addition to the Treasurer. These are all things we all know, but they never change. And that's the problem. As I said, the problem is the City Council has always copped out and said, there's nothing we can do, the mayor. It's the mayor's fault. Well, the mayor proposes and the council disposes. You guys have the purse strings. And, it irritates me to the fact that, as you said, and I like a lot of these people personally on the council. I know them. I've dealt with them for many, many years. But to me, you're ducking the responsibility of your office. And you said something I think is very important. Even if you're the lone no vote, at least if you stand for your convictions. And that's what we really want to see. And I'm sure that you'll have, as I said, now, what do you feel about this? What we're doing now with the, that initial report was fluff. It's a regurgitation of last year's budget. They made a few euphemistic, oh well, we're not handling our money properly. We're not, who doesn't know that? CJ and I have been talking about this for years. Danny Robillard out there in the audience who watches every day and is on our panels whatsoever. We've been complaining about this for years in the city. So what you're saying to me is, and I want to hear a little bit more about this, what you're saying to me is that, you're not afraid to be the only guy to vote no, right?
Right. And what we got the other day from the transition team is nothing that many of us don't already know. A lot of us have been out there complaining about it, harping on it for years and years. And we know that anybody who's actually read the budget could tell you that this is what's going on. There were some minor revelations in there, and maybe there weren't revelations so much as a different way of looking at it. Some of the overtime budgets haven't been changed in years. Well, maybe you really should be budgeting more for those overtimes if that's the case. Snow removal hasn't been more than 500-something thousand a year. And it's been 1.8 million over the past 5 years, I think it was. So those aren't revelations necessarily as a different way of looking at it. So what that's telling you is the budget is fictitious. It's a fictitious budget. I mean, not to steal a CJ line, but it really is a fictitious budget. And the problem I have with the council is that the council doesn't have a lot of power. That's true. It's a weak council, strong mayor system. That is true. But the council does have certain powers. And those powers come up every once in a while. For instance, whether you agree or don't agree with Chief Racine being
Police chief, yeah.
being police chief, or being given a, I think it was a 3-year contract, or whatever his contract was. Whether you agree or don't agree with that, okay? And I tend to think he's doing a pretty good job. I don't know, a lot of people don't necessarily, but whatever you think about it, how many questions did they ask him the day that they gave him that contract? That was the time. That was your chance to ask questions. There are serious questions. There were very serious questions at that time that should have been asked to the chief right then and there before the contract came up. That was your chance. That's your one and only power, you know, that with that particular thing. And when they do have the power, they seem to squander it. I don't know if they're doing backroom deals or something, or they're all just checking this thing out in the back and they say, oh, it's good, it's good. But the real power, when they have it, is just being completely squandered. You know, and you don't necessarily have to vote no, but ask some questions.
I agree with you, Jason, but the biggest problem is this. The city council has more power than they lead people to believe, okay? The power of no is a very strong thing. Just because the mayor enters into a contract does not mean it is binding upon the city. If the city council says, no, I'm not going to fund it, the contract goes nowhere. And this is already case law in it in regards to Attleboro, which Chip can speak about, you know, even better. So again, the city council refuses to exercise their rights. And now we're looking at the statement of the fluff report, the final draft, version 1, or 1.0, where he's saying very clearly that the enterprise funds are so underfunded that we're going to have an increase in fees on water, sewer, EMS, and sanitation. Now, we already know that the contract with Waste Zero is in breach, but that contract actually has built into it automatic increases based upon the consumer price index, plus 3%.
And that's where people should be really upset.
Exactly, plus 20% on a resin fee, whichever is greater, either the resin fee to acquire the resin or the greater fee they have to pay. So if 20% is higher, that's what gets included in the contract. That money is not going to be absorbed by the city. And the problem is that Fall River has been lied to so often that, you know, it just keeps reminding me over and over again of a scene from a movie.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
There you go. And that's the problem in Fall River. We cannot handle the truth.
And the truth is, as you pointed out, and obviously you've examined the budget, the overtime budgets, this is a product of mismanagement by the city, the lack of asking questions during the budget by the city council, and approving budgets. This is an issue that I talked about 25 years ago. Because when the fire department reduced its complement from 300 to 255, it was predicated on giving overtime rather than paying for the other 45 employees, because they did it and said, well, it's cheaper to pay them overtime than hire these people and pay the other benefits, the sick leave, et cetera. But the problem was, when they did that initially, and I pointed it out then, 25 years ago, that if you do that, every time you give a pay raise, there has to be a commensurate increase in the overtime budget, because it costs more for overtime because people are being paid more. Well, if you look over the past 25 years, how many times overtime budgets have been level funded, you'll find out it's most of the time. Now, they just gave out massive pay raises to some of these departments over the past 5 years. Yet the overtime budget hasn't increased, and then they wonder why we run out of money. See, we're not going to get specific right now, but the point is, the bottom line is, this is mismanagement and lack of understanding of their own job as city councilors, as mayors, and they don't ask the questions, or they don't want to know. They don't want to ask. Like I said, they don't want to know the truth. The reality is that look, we put ourselves here. They have been malfeasant, misfeasant, and non-feasant. They got all the feasants covered. And that's what our government has been. And it's, you know, and these are the kind of things that we need to change. And as I said, young blood is kind of a euphemistic term. We need new blood. We need new vision would be a more accurate thing. But what we need to do is, if people don't ask questions, if people don't take responsibility and accountability, as CJ said, the city council is amazing at blaming everybody else. Oh, we had to do it. If we don't do this, we'll go into receivership. If we don't do this, we're going to get fined. Well, why didn't you check this out at the beginning of this process? And then if the mayor did this, let him explain why we got to this point. But the fact is, look, we're all in this together as a community, but the politicians are our elected representatives, and taxpayers pay for essential services. As I said, this has now become an inverted pyramid. If you look at all our departments, we've increased dramatically the number of supervisors and reduced the number of people delivering services to the taxpayer.
Well, you let the inmates run the asylum.
Exactly. And the inmates are all working at City Hall, and they're in government, and that's the problem. And we've had more and more, and this is the problem, and that's why we need new vision, new people, new blood, whatever euphemism you want to use. The bottom line is we can't have people with their head so far up their derriere that they have difficulty breathing anymore running the government, and that's the bottom line. And I know Caesar's sitting there and he's chomping at the bit, so come on, Caesar, weigh in.
It's okay.
But,
I mean,
are we going to go into neighborhoods?
We probably have to dedicate like 5 hours just to talk about neighborhoods and neighborhood groups, but that's for another show. City councils, I think they're gonna have to go there. Any new city council, okay? And that's why I don't run for city council. I don't run for mayor, even if the President Obama calls my house to run. I would not run, just for the fact that I cannot abandon my people. And sometimes you had to sign on the bottom of that list, you know, giving you soul to the devil. That's the end of the story, because sometimes you have to make decisions that you don't want to do it, but you're going to have to. And that's when people start getting the complaints, you know. And I'm going to give you a very short example. The schools went for sale, okay? I went there to bid for a school that just needs to upgrade, do floors and put sprinkler systems, handicaps accessible. $300,000 done, a brand new school opens the door. CD-REC come in with the school that they have to demolish. They have to raise $1.5 million to build a new one. They fill up the chamber with kids and the parents and everything. They got the approval from all 9 city councils. Was never question about, can they do this? Can they really make this a project for the city? It's a beautiful project and picture, but none of them ever questioned it. Got my support, got my vote. Oh, you kidding? The full chamber, I never saw so many people in this chamber. Got my support. When it comes to me, to give it to me, I had at least 2 city councils that supported, but had the questions. Can Carlos really deliver this? Can Carlos really did it? Or do this? So he is a perfect example. You know, that's the vote that counts. I know all these people are going to vote for me if I support this. And it's a beautiful project, don't get me wrong. And CD-REC, it's a beautiful group and everything. But the point is, let's just drop the ball and see, can this really be real? Can this really come true? So that's why I'm saying city councils sometimes, they make choices, they need to think twice. And I cannot run for office because I cannot abandon the people. If I run and I'm going to tell them that I'm going to be on their side, even I'm going to get reelected or recalled, I'm going to stay on their side.
Who said a dirty word? No, but,
He's swearing. Throw him off the set. He's swearing.
But no, Carlos, you make a very good point. Jason's sitting over there looking. That's the key. The key is we've seen it time and time again throughout our city, and especially the last few years, that if you fill the council chamber with people, they wilt. And if you take this job, and I've had numerous battles. I've been dealing with these people for 30 years. And I've gone there and I've fought for what I believe in, and I don't hold it against them if they take an alternate position. But it seems that the city council doesn't have the courage to take a position when they're under the gun. If you fill that chamber, it's like nobody wants to ask a question. Nobody will say anything negative, and it's always, well, it was like the parks when we spent $800,000.
But they will talk. Because of this.
Oh yeah, they'll talk.
It's on TV.
They'll talk. They'll make a speech.
Yes.
They won't do anything about getting to the bottom of it. And as Jason said, this, look, let's face this. This is about money. This is not really a business. It's your household budget. This is our house, and we have to look at our money the way we look at our money in our house. And we have to say, well, the first thing we have to do is pay our electric light bill. And then we have to pay our gas bill. And then we have to pay our mortgages. And this is what we have to have priorities in our own house. And this is our, I made this statement and I gave it to somebody that was running for office a few years ago. And I truly believe it. And you guys can feel free to use this at any time. It shouldn't be about we live in Fall River. It should be about Fall River lives in us. We have to do what's best for the community. It's appalling. As much as I like parks, and I think it's great to have parks, to spend $800,000 on a park and stick a fountain in the middle of it when the city is in a financial condition it's in is appalling.
I totally agree.
And that's the kind of thing. And you as a neighborhood leader know how hard you have to fight for every little thing.
I could ask the city to renew my playground, and what I did was with $2,000, I could spend $500,000 there. With $2,000, I paint the fence, I replace the nets, that's it, a brand new park.
Okay, we're running short, so let's have a couple little, CJ, whack it, and then we're going to give Jason, and we're going to let Jason and Carlos wrap up the show.
Well, I think we need to hear from Jason in the last minute or so.
Sure.
Because he is running, and
I agree.
I want to hear a little bit more about him real quick. We got about less than a minute for him. So, Jason, if you will, please, I would appreciate it.
Well, I'm running for city council, and I would appreciate your consideration. Everybody gets 9 votes, and I'm just looking for one of those votes. I've been living in the city since 2006. I've been active in politics since 2007. I've done quite a bit of things behind the scenes. I don't try to go out and do a lot and try to get myself out there, but that I'm basically looking for a city that's going to be back in the black, so to speak. I want to see a city that's going to be back on financial good times, so that we can actually afford some of the things we want, like an $8,000 fountain or whatever. I mean, those things are what you do in the good times. That's not what you do now. I also want a transparent city. We're not seeing transparency, even though we were promised transparency. We're still not seeing transparency. I've been a proponent of transparency for years and years, so that's going to be a big part of what I do is transparency, and customer service. Customer service, I think our city needs to be much better with customer service. When somebody calls and has a problem, we got to take care of that problem. We got to take care of that customer. That's how I was raised, and that's how I think that our city should be acting. So.
Well said.
ilovefallriver.com is my website because nobody can spell my name. So go check me out at ilovefallriver.com or on Facebook at I Love Fall River.
Well, thank you for being here, Jason. Thank you, Carlos. And Jason, we're going to have you back alone so you can really speak a little bit more.
Yeah.
But happy spring, everyone, and
happy spring.
Watch out for the snow, okay? Thank you for watching Spindle City Straight Talk.
And we will be doing a lot of programming with potential candidates, so they will all be back, and Cesar will always be back.
Oh,
He'll be running.
No.
Ugh.